8 minutes to top of the hour right here on the African Diaries. And yes, we had to make sure that we get our guests ready for our first conversation. And you know how live production can be like, right? There's always a technical difficulty here and there, but you have to just make sure you know how to troubleshoot and overcome. So we've successfully managed to get our guest on the line. So let me quickly just fill you in about who we'll be speaking to. She goes by the name Kentse Badirwang. She is an author of a book titled Kattey's Arrows, which basically talks about her cruel journey to her purpose. The book is a novel based on her own life story, which details her experience with childhood depression, multiple rapes, and other hardships. She wrote the book as a way to heal herself and help others who have gone through similar traumatic experience, particularly victims of gender-based violence. Now, Kentse is also an actress, motivational speaker, and an activist who founded the Pelegi Movement, an NPO rather, advocating for the rights of victims of gender-based violence, rape, and sexual crimes. Kentse Badirwang joins us today to tell us about her story and how she managed to turn her pain into purpose. Today, she lives to talk about her pain, and moreover, she wrote about it as well to help others heal. Kentse Badirwang, welcome to African Diaries.
Hey sis, thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor for me to be in the studio today. Thank you.
We really appreciate you making time, Kentse. And you know what? I have heard about your book. I have read snippets on it. I've heard you speak at your speaking engagements about it as well. And I think most importantly, we would just want to firstly start here. Let's just find out from you when you decided to write a book and eventually turned into a GBV activist. What point were you at in life for you to take that decision to basically bear your dirty laundry in a book that everybody can read? Although it is a novel about a girl called Kattey, it's basically talking about your life journey, your cruel journey to purpose. Tell us about that. Which space or frame of mind were you in when you decided to write that book?
You know what? Thank you so much for that question. I think, where I was at that point is after I had a mental breakdown, and I realized that, for me to be at a point where I had tried to commit suicide a couple of times and I didn't succeed. So I figured the only way for me, to deal with all these things that I've survived in life is actually for me to put them in a book. So uh, right now I can say it can take me like 1 or 2 weeks to put down a story, but because of the traumatic experiences and the way I was trying to deal with those issues one by one. So it actually took me 2 years to put that book together,
Mm.
because I would stop for 2 months, and then I would take a break, go through the emotions, go through the pain, get the necessary, help that I needed. And I figured if I am not going to be able to come up with a plan for me to put down everything, in a way that would make sense and make me not want to be tempted to commit suicide, was for me to overcome it. And the best way for me to do it was to actually write a book, because that is how I could best deal with everything and anything that I struggled with.
And when you wrote the book, you knew very well that eventually people are going to read about intimate parts of your life that you probably kept a secret for a very long time. How did you
Yes.
then navigate that fear of bearing your dirty laundry and the fear of, yo, but what will people say?
Yeah, because I think the greatest power of gender-based violence is silent. And if our families have to portray the picture perfect lives, and not talk about what actually happened in our families, then I think we were actually going to make sure that gender-based violence grow beyond what it is today. So I wanted to be, to take to be an example. And I was really, really worried about how my family was going to, receive my book and what the contents of the book. But at the end of the day, it was not about my family, it was about me. You understand? Because most of the things that are in the book, it was like shock to them because they had no idea even of the things that I've went through. You understand? So for them to support me, they needed to know what happened to me. They needed to know that the Kentse that they knew was actually living a life of a lie. So I had to come up with all those secrets and all those things that happened to me, and I'm so grateful that I did that, because today I understand my mental disorders that were brought on by things that had happened to me. So it puts me in a better position to heal myself, and also to try and heal other people, like I mentioned in the cover of my book.
Kentse, you know what? I want us to track back a little bit. We will come to talking about the mental illness challenges that you faced because of the abuse that you experienced, leading you up to, attempt suicide. But right now, I just want us to track back a little bit. I want to find out from you, after all you've been through from childhood into young adulthood and to the woman that you are today, when would you specify was the moment in your life when you knew that life is about to change and it would never be the same again for you? There's gotta be that moment, even if it was in your childhood, but you knew that after that incident, your life would never be the same again. When was that?
I think that that was when I experienced my first rape when I was like 14 years old. And for me, was when we went to court, and my case was actually dismissed, because of insufficient evidence. So that really broke me and changed the little girl that I was, that really actually assassinated, if I can put it that way, the little girl that innocent little girl that I was, because I felt I was let down by the system. And from there as well, if the court could say the person that raped you was not found guilty, then when you go back to your community, then you are labeled a liar, and that really affects your family. So that really changed my life to say, you know what, I am not the same person that I was. I'm not the same little girl that I was. And from there on, that's when my life started changing in a way that I became rebellious. I was angry and bitter. I could say that is where I lost, you know, the Kinsey that was a very innocent little girl, and then I totally changed and became something else. So that's when the depression, the teenage depression started, and a whole lot of issues. Me having fights with my mother, because actually fighting with everyone, my siblings, my parents, at school. My grades dropped, and everything just broke loose.
When we watch you and we listen to you talking about your past experiences, one would say, it's probably fabricated or you making it up because you do not sound detached, but I think it would be safe to say you've healed so much that you can easily talk about it. But for somebody just to understand the severity of what you went through, Kentse, would you be okay with sharing with us in chronological order on how things changed in your childhood? What did you experience? What followed next? How were you affected? You've mentioned a few things there, fighting with your mother, grades being affected. But I want you to explain to us, without giving out too much on what your book is about, but explain to us how your life just followed a series of unfortunate events until the birth of your child saved you.
Okay. So, I was born in a small a clinic in Mafikeng. So I don't know when I was born. I think it started with the story that I heard, in my early childhood, that they said when I was born I was so ugly and hairy and I looked like a monkey, right?
They
And
said that.
then I
Who's
think
they? Who's they?
at the clinic, the nurses, so they were gossiping about, and I think my mother was one of the ladies that were like, hearing the rumors that one of the ladies that came in last night gave birth to the ugliest baby. And so my mother was so shocked in the morning when that ugly baby was given to her, you understand? So I think from then, when she looked at me, I think it really, that really broke her in a way. She was not too confident to say, "This is my baby. I'm gonna love her the way she is." So that obviously went with me through a crèche. We called it crèche at the time. And even in primary school, everybody hated me. I was bullied and ridiculed, because I was hairy and my nose was flat. So honestly, they called me a monkey. So I was never free to go and play with other kids. And I think one of the things on top of that, I got my period when I was 10 years, you understand? And no one explained it to me to say, this is what happened. But the way when I told my mother that I got my period and I was confused, you know, it was the way she went down on me like it was my fault, you understand? So I was ashamed and I was made to understand that it was my fault, and because I was ugly and all that. So I didn't grow up playing with other kids. And also, because I was the firstborn, I didn't get to play because my mother got married when she was very, very young. So automatically, on top of that, I had to become a deputy parent. So when other kids had to go and play, I had to cook and take care of my siblings. And that led to me hating my siblings, thinking had they not been a part of our family, maybe my life was going to be better. And that made me also to inflict pain on my siblings. And then I ended up going for psychological counseling, like I was twisted or something like that. Of course I was. So between home and school, I had no peace. When I go to school, the teachers told me I was ugly and stupid and all that. So I struggled at school because I believed that I was that. Because now, if you water a child with negative words or anything that you always nurturing with negativity and bad energy. So I became everything that society or my family imposed on me. And then I had my first rape. You understand? So it's like this whole cloud of darkness was following me. And then all I wanted to do was complete my grade 10 and go to Joburg, right? And on top of that, then because I couldn't get the love that I seeked at home, I dated an older guy who in turn uh, gave me a lot of sexually transmitted diseases. So I was forever in and out of hospital because of that. So that really brought a lot of shame to myself and the family. So, from birth until my matric, there was absolutely nothing positive that came out of my life, you understand? So that's why after completing my matric, I went to Joburg, where I got to get into the music industry, experience more rapes, more beatings. It's like my forehead was written beats me up, because every guy that I dated beats me up. And then I thought it was a proper way of expressing love. You understand? And also, I got involved in a gang. They used me as bait to go and rob. You understand? So the way they planned, it's like some syndicate of some sort. So because I was dating the leader of the gang, so that was my life. You understand? So that was my life, and I didn't care until I gave birth. I gave birth. I felt pregnant, and I had an abortion. But unfortunately or fortunately, the one child was aborted, and a couple of weeks later they told me there was another child still stuck in my stomach. So I was really hoping that I would lose the child, but for some reason my child didn't die, and my son is like 28 years now. So you understand. So that was the turning point where I said I want to change my life, because now God blessed me with this person to take responsibility for this pure innocent soul. So now that's when I started changing my life after I had my miraculous baby, if I can call him that. You understand? So yeah, in a nutshell, that is the life that I've lived.
Yo, Kenze, my heart breaks. My heart breaks for you for the things you experience. I mean, you did mention that you've experienced lack of love from a young age in childhood, but I didn't think it was from birth, you know?
Mm,
And
yes.
so, that's very disheartening to hear. But with that said, Kenze, I find out as much as you said, then you decided you wanted to change your life, then you found healing. To be the person that you are today, an activist, an author who wrote a very uplifting book, and also one who has started a foundation to help empower women that had to start their lives from scratch after experiencing GBV. Then where was your point of departure in terms of your healing journey? Most people would run to church, others would run to therapy. Maybe others would just decide to check into a rehabilitation center if they had issues with addiction. Or nowadays, people also have the opportunity to check into a shelter, a women and children safety home. And since you are related to a gang at the time, which I believe are very hard to let go of, what was your point of departure? So you're holding this baby boy in your hand and you want to change your life. Where was your first point of departure? Was it home? Was it isolation? Was it church? Was it rehabilitation?
You know, because after having my baby, I stayed like 4 or 5 months at the hospital, right? And then I still went to drop the baby at my grandmother's house, and then I went back to Joburg. So, and then I went on with my, unstable life and all that. But for me, what I did was I drank a lot, so I developed an addiction for drinking.
Mm,
So, and people could not tell that there was something wrong with me, because when I could not even want to spend even like 5 minutes, by myself, because now it's either I was talking 24/7 and making jokes and then drinking every single day of my life. You understand? So that, because I was afraid of the nightmares, I was afraid of confronting these things. And sometimes when I was, drunk, I would be very, very violent and angry. So I went to different churches, right? So I tried, our African churches. I tried these new charismatic churches as well, but nothing worked. Until I had a mental breakdown, and then I went to a mental institution for like a couple of months. Like I was like there for 2 months, and then I tried to go back to work, and then I had a mini stroke, and then it was a lot.
sure.
And then I was diagnosed with orthostatic hypertension, and then I had to resign at work, and because they wanted to put me on medical abort. So now, and then I decided, you know what, because now after having that mental breakdown, I struggled so much, because my neurotransmitters, they said my brain was, because I couldn't function like a normal person. So and then after resigning, I decided, you know what, I'm going to write a book and try to, but I've never really went for counseling, right?
Mm,
So I think the book really, really was a turning point for me in terms of rehabilitation. That is all that I needed, you understand?
mm,
Because for
mm.
me, and also the little bit of counseling at the mental institution, it helped. And then they did a procedure on me called ECG, electronic something something. I think they were shocking my brain or something like that, of which they gave me an overdose. And they even made things worse for me because I couldn't drive. I'd go to town and forget that I came with a car and go to a taxi, or be found just, going through town not knowing who I was or where I was going when I left the house. So it was quite intense. The level of, because I was now diagnosed with schizophrenia, psychosis, multiple personality disorder, and taking accountability of that, as particularly psychosis. I had multiple personalities because I lived most of my life thinking I was Brenda Fassi,
Yo.
because when they defined my ugliness, they called me Mabr, and I was, I really really lived like Mabr, so she was the person, I literally lived her life, because when she would tint her hair blue, I'd dye my hair blue as well, and I believed that I was Brenda first, because now that's when they defined my ugliness and called me that. So for a very long time I was not Kintse anymore. It's only after coming back from the mental institutions that I decided to reconnect with Kentse Badirwang. The little girl that I was before I was raped when I was 14. So it's been a long, long journey. It's been a very painful process. But today, when I talk about my story, I don't cry anymore. I don't break down.
Yeah.
So healing is a process. As you can see now, I'm not detached. I went through every emotion, confronted every incident,
Mm.
and even managed to forgive each and every person that has done horrible things to me. So yeah, so it's about that. It's about finding a place to forgive myself for hurting myself, and forgiving those who have done me wrong.
Sure. Kenze,
Yeah.
you know what? I think if anything, your story just depicts or illustrates the kind of long-standing effects, consequential effects of GBV.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, what happened to you. It wasn't self-inflicted, but it's just the result of not even taking the time to process what happened to you. You just had to keep going with life, pick up your broken pieces and keep it moving. And I guess everything piled up, and it led you to so many mental illness issues coexisting at the same time. I'm sorry to hear that about you, but I think I should commend you for being one that fought for herself. And today you know who Kentse Badirwang is. And not only that, you're also an activist for GBV. Hopefully, your story will encourage others. I want to close down our conversation as we gear up for our next conversation, but I want to close it with just finding out from you about your foundation. What is your mandate? What have you done? And what are you working towards? What can we look forward to in the near future?
Okay. Uh, Pelegi Movement focuses mainly on offering support to victims of gender-based violence in a form of court support, opening cases for my minors, or those who cannot open cases for themselves. And also we focus on things like supporting a girl child, period poverty and hygiene. And I also go into communities and profile families that are affected by GBV directly or indirectly, and offer them the necessary support. So what I'm doing now is I have actually partnered with a Red Cross, and I'm doing a campaign called Restore My Dignity, which is me like providing panties and bra to victims of gender-based violence. So what I do is I get donations, and I collect them from different, from corporate, civil society, and all that, and then I drop them off at GBV centers, at police station, where women go and open cases, because they leave their underwear there. So, yeah, so that is what I'm passionate about now, because I feel that if we are providing sanitary towels and we don't understand that young girls in farming communities don't have underwear to actually strap those sanitary towels on, then we don't understand the nature of poverty, the level of poverty in our country. So I'm looking forward to, going around the country and making people's lives better than what it is now, with the little that I can do with this campaign called Restore My Dignity.
That is wonderful. I'm glad to hear that you are still pushing your purpose and doing what you've been called to do. And I would like to say congratulations on teaching us on how to turn our pain into purpose. We do hope to talk to you in the near future, especially related to the campaign that you're currently working on, just to find out how it's going and also to find out how we can partner with you.
Okay. Thank you so much to you and your listeners. It was
Thank
really a
you.
pleasure sharing my story with you.
Thank you so much. That is the voice of Kentse Badirwang, an author, GBV activist, a motivational speaker. I would say entertainment personality, as she has dabbled in the arts as well. And today she has lived beyond her pain and her trauma to write about her pain, and that's where she found healing. We're just going to take a quick breather. On the other side of this, we're hoping to touch base with the representatives from Gun Free South Africa to talk to us about the gun related femicide violence.